Some lore debates are easy to take a side on. For example, if you asked me when Sister Location takes place, I'd always say after the first game but before the third. Or if you asked me when the missing children incident happened, I'd always say 1985. These things just seem obvious to me. I even have mild confidence in a Midnight Motorist theory. I feel like that says something. But every now and then, there's a long-running debate where I can't decide what to believe. Today, I'm going to be talking about my biggest example of that, which is the identity of the Fazbear's Fright Guard. This one keeps me up at night. Not literally, but still. I keep going back and forth and so on. My answer changes depending on the day, sometimes even mid-conversation. There's never been a mystery that's gotten me flip-flopping this much before. Apart from whether the Unwithereds existed or not, but that argument will resolve itself with the second movie, so I'll hold off on that one for now. There are two options for who the Fazbear's Fright Guard is. Well, there's also Henry, but despite how much I like that answer from a hypothetical standpoint, there's basically no evidence for it except a fire that he never claims to have caused. So, for all intents and purposes, there are two options. On one side of the ring, we have the most commonly believed candidate, and also the overarching main protagonist, Michael Afton. On the other side, we have the character who got a whole story about being a guard at Fazbear's Fright, Hudson Foster. Now for that second one, I'm gonna give a little context because I know some fans haven't read the Fazbear Frights books, not to be confused with Fazbear's Fright. But if you're familiar with the story What We Found, you can skip to the timestamp on the screen right now. In What We Found, a man named Hudson gets a job at Fazbear's Fright. Springtrap gets brought to the location and causes Hudson to hallucinate violent animatronics, as well as traumatic moments from his past. The main two are his high school teacher and peers tormenting him, and his abusive stepdad physically and emotionally harming him. It turns out that Hudson killed his stepdad and his mom by setting the house on fire, and in a cruel twist of fate, he finds himself cooked in an oven by Springtrap. Don't ask me why a haunted house has a functioning oven, it's never explained. Okay, so now you know about both of the characters. Unless you don't know who Mike is, in which case you should probably watch some other videos and come back to this one later. The point being, we can continue on to the theories now. So what's the evidence for Michael being the guard? Number 1, the Survival Logbook, a book that Mike fills out, depicts Mike's favorite character as a security guard in the Fazbear's Fright office. This could be saying that Mike worked there. Number 2, when Mike's speech from Sister Location plays, we see the burnt-down Fazbear's Fright in the background, and when he says he's going to come find William, Springtrap shows up. It's possible that this is trying to tell us that the fire is a result of Mike's journey to find his father. Number 3, Mike has seen some, if not all, of the characters that the Phantoms are based on, and the Phantoms are said to be all in the guard's mind. And number 4, the guard seems to help set up Happiest Day, an event which mirrors the bite of '83 which Mike caused. And what's the evidence for Hudson being the guard? Number 1, Hudson works as the night guard at Fazbear's Fright in the only official Five Nights at Freddy's story to take place at the location. Number 2, Hudson has a fear of both fire and animatronics, which would explain why the Phantoms are all burnt animatronics. Number 3, the Ultimate Guide calls this theory out as a new lead on the page about What We Found. There are probably a few little pieces of evidence here and there that I'm forgetting, but that's the gist of it. So, this sounds like a tough choice, right? Both sides have pretty good evidence. Well, it's about to get worse. Every single piece of evidence that I just brought up is incredibly easy to write off. First, let's look back through the Mike evidence. Number 1, the logbook could be depicting Phone Guy, who was Mike's guide in the first game, and who also says that Foxy is his favorite.
Did, Foxy ever appear in the hallway? Probably not. I was just curious. Like I said, he was always my favorite.
See, while the book does visually depict the Fazbear's Fright office, it's very clearly written to be a book about the Freddy's location from the first game. Number 2, Mike's speech being shown over the remains of Fazbear's Fright could just as easily be telling us that the fire letting Springtrap escape is what will allow Mike to finally find his father, which is exactly what happens in Pizzeria Simulator. Plus, Scraptrap says that Mike may not recognize him at first, but you'd think that Mike would be able to tell that the yellow rabbit with a corpse inside of it is the yellow rabbit with a corpse inside of it that he just saw a few weeks ago. Number 3. While the phantoms are said to be in the guard's mind, they don't necessarily have to be made from their memories. They could just be William planting things in the guard's mind that would scare him, and we know for a fact that William has seen all of the characters that the phantoms are based off of. In the second game, he would have come across Balloon Boy, Mangle, Golden Freddy, Withered Foxy, and the Puppet. And in the Follow Me minigames, he would have come across classic Chica. Number 4. According to FNAF World, it's actually the crying child who sets up Happiest Day. It probably only looks like the guard does that for the sake of gameplay. Oh, and one more thing, Mike is a corpse at this point, so getting a public-facing job would be hard. But he managed it in Pizzeria Simulator, so hey, maybe he did a phone interview for this job. Next, let's take another look at the Hudson evidence. Number 1. While what we found is the only other time we see a Fazbear's Fright guard, the story contradicts the third game in major ways. The layout of the place is completely different, the phones aren't set up, and Springtrap is chained to a wall. As for Hudson, he's instructed to walk around the place rather than stay in the office. He only faces off against Springtrap for one night, and he never causes the building to get burned down. Only he himself gets burned. Number 2. The only Phantom animatronic from the game that Hudson encounters is Phantom Chica, and she looks completely different. She isn't burnt, and she's just a head and an arm. Number 3. The Ultimate Guide is just flat out wrong in this instance. It says that the story has the same ending as the third game, but as I already said before, that's simply not true. So what do we do now? I just obliterated all of our evidence. Thankfully, we still have one thing we can rely on. Gut feelings. And my gut feeling is... I think... Wait, actually... But... On the other hand... Oh, wait, that's... I guess it could be... Well, that wouldn't... You know what? Screw it. It's Henry.